And from Here Comes the Sun to Here Comes one of the stars of the five, Dana Perino joins us live. Good morning to you.
Hi, I was trying to think of something funny to say.
That's okay, it's early.
It's early.
So on Friday morning, 8:30, we get the unemployment number. It went from 9 to 8.6, and it sounds like that's great, but when you start digging around, you realize, wait a minute, that number is there because so many people have just thrown up their hands and said, I can't find a job.
So it's better than the alternative, which is that it could have gone up, and it still could go up if you read a lot of experts' opinions about looking at trends long term, and especially some of the factors in Europe coming forward. So if you're at the White House, you probably thought, well, that's a great number. But it was a decidedly mixed bag.
Governor Huckabee on our show this weekend said, look, any executor is going to hang their hat on a number like this, regardless of party. And when that number comes out and it shows a downturn, of course you're going to hang your hat on that. David Axelrod on Meet the Press yesterday seemed to echo those sentiments. Take a listen.
We've never hung our hat on one number, and obviously we continue to have big challenges, but let's recognize that we've created 2.9 million private sector jobs in the last 21 months. The first month we took office, the country was losing 750,000 jobs in one month.
So no hanging their hat on that one particular number, but a trend?
Well, I actually think they did hang their hat on one particular number, and that was that if the stimulus bill passed, a nearly $1 trillion stimulus bill passed, that unemployment would go below 8%. That did not happen, and they can argue, and in some cases they make a convincing case, that the stimulus bill helped save us from something worse. But most people believed that if we passed the $1 trillion stimulus and we added that money to the deficit, we added that government spending for things like our next topic, like green jobs, that we would get unemployment below 8%. That did not happen. 1.8 million people, less people employed today than when they took office. They were dealt a very difficult hand, but their policies haven't panned out. And now they're in this difficult position of trying to convince America that President Obama should be reelected because things were worse than he thought they were, and they didn't have as many shovel-ready jobs as they thought. But hang with us, because if you stick with us, we can do more going forward. And that's a hard argument.
But is that why they did not come out and do a big celebration Friday? Because of that? Because that was the first thing that went through my mind, too, was that 8% number that they promised after the stimulus.
I think that, and also because, as Steve said, when you look at these numbers, and at first glance, from 9 to 8.6, you could just like walk away. That's great. The problem is that 310,000 people just were so discouraged. They gave up looking. So they're not counted in that number anymore. Right. So 310,000 people. And somebody that I know, a Democrat that I work with at 5 o'clock every day, said, well, that's okay because they went on Social Security prematurely. I'm like, but that's exacerbating the problem. We have too few people working too few years and not reforming our entitlement system to be able to take care of them going forward in the future. And
of the, I think, 120,000 jobs that were created, only 2,000 were in manufacturing, and that does not bode well for the future. But, you know, this administration has hung their hat on green jobs, and apparently we financed a $230,000 green jobs website. But the irony is, there are no jobs on the Green Jobs website.
Right, and this is not something that the administration advertised. It's something that Michael Baldwin, Brownfield, I'm sorry, of Heritage found, and he posted on there that there's this website. So you can go on. If you think that you want to work in the green economy, you can go on. But the thing is, there's no jobs you can actually apply for. It just says skills in general you think that you need. I think the green jobs myth, if we live long enough to look back at this historical period, will be one of the most ridiculous periods of our economic history.
But isn't it also reflexive, too, of the amount of waste out of Washington? Why in the world, this is what, I'm a tech freak, so it costs like $2,000 to make a website, maybe $5,000. Who the heck is spending $230,000 on a website when there's nothing on the website?
This is only a thing that the government could do. And the thing that is unbelievable is that for the Obama administration that likes to bash big banks and oil companies and traditional types of natural gas companies, things like that, what's actually helping keep the economy afloat is the amazing technological advances that are happening in our own energy companies. And it's not just traditional oil and gas that they're finding, but they're the ones that are the biggest promoters and investors. They plow their profits right back into things like geothermal energy.
Let's talk a little bit about the vacation that's getting some attention right now. President Obama has announced that he's going to take a 17-day vacation over Christmas, and he's going to go to Hawaii. Now, I know if you consider going to Hawaii from the East Coast, you want to go longer than maybe 6 or 7 days, because it's a long trip. But some people are thinking that 17 17 is maybe just a little too long based on the fact that we have a terrible economy right now and a lot of problems to try and fix. Your thoughts?
What I love is that they announced this on a Friday night. So in the morning, we got the jobs numbers, and they were like, whew, 9% to 8.6%. Our work is done here. We are going for a little vacation. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was maybe like even a typo, that 17 days, because if you think back to the Martha's Vineyard vacation, it's not like they were going someplace just for a few days where you were going to be with the 99%. This is a photograph from last year's trip when they were getting off Air Force One. It was like, woohoo! Surf's on.
But let's be fair, Dana, because your boss was hammered for his long summer vacation.
He never had a surfboard.
But he was down on the ranch and clearing brush, right? But the idea is that the president's never on vacation, right? When the president's down in Crawford, he's got the mobile command center with him. When the president's out in Hawaii, he's got the mobile command center. He's never really kicking back.
And often when President Bush was at the ranch in Crawford, they called it ranch diplomacy. Most world leaders, if they wanted to come to Washington, yeah, everybody gets to go to the White House, but very few people got to go to Crawford. And so usually in August there would be some sort of foreign leader visit or something like that. And I know that a president always works. They set up the command center and it's like the national security room. It's just, for me, it is perception.
Which is
Martha's
so much
Vineyard,
of the presidency.
Hawaii, you know, if you're going to places like that, and for 17 days, you are asking for trouble.
And the perception is on the heels of the president's comments about working through the holiday to get this payroll tax cut through. Here's the president last Friday talking about keeping Congress here in Washington during Christmas. Take a listen.
We need to get this done, and I expect that it's going to get done before Congress leaves. Otherwise, Congress may not be leaving, and we can all spend Christmas here together.
He said we. But here's the thing.
He's not even going to spend Christmas there.
But doesn't he get a pass because he has developed his strategy for re-election to blame Congress? So really, he can go on vacation, and they'll need to stay there to try and get something done because they're the ones that are the problem creators.
Yeah, he needs a do-nothing Congress. If you think back just to 2 weeks ago in the super committee, when he needed the super committee deal in order to get the debt ceiling passed in August, then it was hands off. This is Congress's thing. They're going to have to deal with it. It wasn't until the very last day, when it looked like it was going to crater, that he finally said, you know, you really ought to do something. It's just not good enough. I think people aren't listening anymore.
But with him on vacation, it adds to that that narrative now that he's just a bystander, which really bugged him over the weekend.
The difference is, too, like when you're in Crawford, you have the picture behind you of all the reporters in Texas. This is going to be the beach.
In shorts. You don't want to see
that. Or a hula girl. All right, Dana Perino will be watching you tonight on the 5, at 5, with 5 people.
Yes, it's very convenient.
Thanks, Dana. Coming up on the show, it's not a thing of beauty. Still ahead, why Miss USA was arrested.
And should criminals be allowed to sentence themselves? Well, of course not. So why are lawmakers in Washington doing it? That's next.